others are fast-moving.
Unlike other big rallies,
A bit earlier at about 7 a.m., a group from the Coast Guard.
Today on Rappler, Ruby Tuazon testifies she gave money directly to Senator Jinggoy Estrada, but not to Senator Enrile.
But of course we would help you. Now, I don't know what that help would be specifically. I mean, we have an obligation because we have a treaty.
The U.S. Navy's Admiral Greenert assures the Philippines of support against China's maritime aggression. And Belgium faces protests as it extends its euthanasia law to terminally ill children. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Provisional State Witness Ruby Tuazon faces the Senate Thursday. She drops incriminating information about Senator Jinggoy Estrada's involvement in the pork barrel scam. Ayi Makaraig reports.
I was once willing to stand death row because of my trust in his family. Now I risk my life only for the Philippines.
Socialite Ruby Tuazon turns her back on Senator Jinggoy Estrada, implicating her close family friend to the biggest corruption scandal. For the first time, a witness tells the Senate she was the go-between of alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Napoles and two of the country's highest officials. Tuazon says Estrada initially did not want to deal with Napoles, but the woman's offer of 40% commission was too hard to resist. She got her own cut of 5% or less. Tuazon says in 2004 and 2008, she gave Estrada his kickbacks right at his San Juan home and Senate office.
Kasi mabigat ho yung pera.
Okay.
Hindi ko kaya. I have something wrong with my spine, so I don't really carry. So, like when I delivered here in the Senate before.
Yes.
Okay. And
Was it one occasion or several occasions?
I think I did it like at least twice.
Twice.
Yeah. I used a hand carry one time.
Hand carry bag?
Yeah, yung may gulong. Pag medyo we put it in a duffel bag.
Pag medyo malaki.
Medyo madami.
Madami.
Duffel bag is big. Pag maliit lang, minsan buksan bag, babalik niya agad sa akin. Pag maliit lang,
okay.
2 lang, mga 2M, like that.
She identifies Estrada's two security aides who met her at the Senate basement to avoid inspection. Tuazon responds to his claim that she only came forward because he rejected her request for money.
I wanted to see how far he would go. After all, I only got a small commission. He got the bulk. If I am the extortionist he claims me to be, why did I offer to return the assets acquired from arrangements of Mrs. Napoles?
Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago calls Tuazon a perfect state witness. She contrasts her eyewitness evidence with the denials of Estrada and her nemesis, Senate Minority Leader Juan Ponce Enrile.
That is, in the words of the Secretary of Justice, slam dunk evidence. Or, in my own words, that is bullseye. Dahil nakita mo mismo eh. Kaya kitang-kita mo siya, hindi ba? Huling-huli siya. Denial, like alibi, as an exonerating justification, is inherently weak and if uncorroborated, regresses to blatant impotence. Blatant impotence. Impotent na, blatant pa. Lalo na kung matanda na.
While Tuazon directly points to Estrada, she says she never talked to Enrile about his pork barrel. She only gave money to his former Chief of Staff Dindin Reyes at the Senate and restaurants. Enrile's critics try to pin him down.
Alam ni Senator Enrile yung mga transaksyon na ginagawa ninyo with Attorney Gigi Reyes.
Sa dami ho nito, siguro ho naman meron siyang inkling.
Inkling? Yun ang sinasabi ko dito eh. I admire your courage nga for coming out. Pero kulang ho eh. Andiyan na ho kayo eh. Yes.
Well, I can only presume.
You presume na alam niya?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's good enough.
Tuazon also says it was only her late brother Remy Chan who knew about the Malampaya Fund scam. Senators say Tuazon's testimony is strong enough to incriminate Estrada in what could be his second plunder case. But without any records, specific dates and amounts from her, the prosecution will have to work harder to ensure Estrada does not go scot-free again. Ai Macraig, Rappler.
She left the country a socialite and came back a state witness. Just who exactly is Ruby Tuazon, and what role did she play in what many call institutionalized corruption? Natasha Gutierrez reports.
But the truth in this proceeding?
Mostly calm and
I
collected,
don't want to die with my grandchildren being ashamed of me.
sometimes emotional, but willing to talk. Middleman turned whistleblower Ruby Tuazon faces the Senate and shares what she knows about the pork barrel scam. Her testimony is as intriguing as she is. Filipinos get a closer look into the scam's intricacies and into the woman who is a key witness to the country's biggest corruption scandal. Tuazon, a socialite, is tough as nails. She was married to the late Butch Tuazon, the first cousin of former First Gentleman Mike Arroyo. When she caught him cheating on her, she fought back, much like she is doing now.
When I caught my husband, I burned all his clothes. All his things. I burned it all. All 100-something pairs of Italian shoes, all his suit, everything. But because of what I did, they were so shocked. I also myself was shocked with what I did because I never did that before. And na-upset sila sa akin. So,
Delikado ka pala magalit.
buti nga hindi siya sinunog ko, no?
Tuazon was the go-between of alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Lim Napoles and Senator Jinggoy Estrada. She personally delivered cash to Estrada, kickbacks worth millions of pesos, which he allegedly received for channeling his Priority Development Assistance Fund to Napoles' fake non-governmental organizations. Tuazon considered Estrada a friend, so when the scam broke out, she asked him for help.
Hindi ako humingi ng pera sa kanya. Humingi ako ng tulong. Kaya siguro suporta or what. I wanted to see how far he would go. After all, I only got a small commission. He got the bulk.
So, ano pong tulong ang sana ninanais niyong ibigay sa inyo?
At least malalayan ako for a lawyer, mga ganon.
She says she now knows her biggest mistake.
My problem was I sacrificed my values for friendship.
Tuazon left the country in August after she was implicated in the Napoles scam. She admits she earned commission for being a middleman. She came back to the country in February to come clean. The keeper of secrets for powerful men and the beneficiary of 40 million pesos in corruption money, Tuazon explains why she decided to tell all.
You know, I really actually even felt like I was Judas Iscariot. I said, this was what Judas Iscariot must have felt with what he did, no? So, sabi ko, hindi ko yata kaya na to ituloy pa ng ganito. I would like to do something. I don't want to die with 80 million Filipinos hating me. I don't want to die with my grandchildren being ashamed of me. So I felt I have to do something and I have to correct my mistake and I cannot possibly right a wrong with another wrong.
Tuazon is a provisional state witness for now until the Ombudsman evaluates the weight of her testimony. Blunt and honest with both the Senate and herself, she says she will not survive jail.
It's okay. I'd rather die. I know I will probably get a heart attack or
Yes, ma'am.
high blood, which I am hypertensive.
She may not have to worry. Senators praise her courage for coming forward, and most senators agree her testimony is crucial, since she is the first to admit she personally delivered money to a lawmaker. Loyal friend, loving grandmother, vengeful wife. These are the many faces of Ruby Tuazon. But by coming forward, she wants only to be remembered by history and by the country by only one identity: brave witness. Natasha Gutierrez, Rappler, Manila.
Senator Jinggoy Estrada admits meeting with Ruby Tuazon but denies receiving bags of money. In her testimony, Tuazon says she personally delivered kickbacks to Estrada in his office at the Senate and at his home in Green Hills. Tuazon also identifies two of Estrada's staff members who escorted her to the senator's office: Alfredo de los Reyes, Estrada's personal driver, and a certain Tani, a member of Estrada's security team. Estrada admits having Tuazon escorted to his office, but says She brought him sandwiches, not bags of cash. He also downplays Tuazon's Senate testimony, saying it was obvious from her body language that she did not recall the event she was narrating. Estrada adds, if she's really telling the truth, why can't she recall such instances from her own memory? Mrs. Tuazon is merely being fed all these information. The senator says Tuazon is coming clean because he didn't help her out when she asked for money after the pork barrel scandal broke. For our social media post of the day, Ruby Tuazon filled in many of the blanks in the pork barrel scam saga, triggering a host of reactions online from empathy to disbelief. Kenneth Vincent Agustin says, all the state witnesses deserve our support. They too sinned against the people, but doing something about it, make things right, should not be questioned. Life is too precious to be at stake, and yet they chose the right path. But despite praise from senators and citizens for stepping forward, some remain skeptical about Tuazon's intentions. Brad Ancina says, it's just like a prison inmate who finds God after being sentenced. Had she not been caught, she'd still be doing what she was doing even after Yolanda. Just because she's trying to sound Christian doesn't mean that she has regrets. If anything, she regrets being caught and is now trying to play the role of a saint. It took nearly 14 years for the controversial reproductive health bill to become law. The RH law requires reproductive health education in public schools and provided information on contraception methods. After petitions from critics calling the law anti-life, the Supreme Court stopped the implementation of this law. Pro-RH advocate Junis Melgar says prolonging the law's suspension will cost the lives of mothers.
No less. And when women's lives are lost, their family loses a pillar in the family, and then poor families especially. So there is a lot to lose in terms of life, in terms of the future of children, I think, and when women are lost, society loses a lot.
Melgar says there's a problem with how sex is viewed in the Philippines because of what she says is the Catholic Church's fixation about the negative aspect of human sexuality.
With this law, I think there's a problem if we look at sex in a bad way, that people are ashamed about raising sex, because for many couples, especially poor couples, sexual satisfaction is the only thing they have in life, you know. And if you deprive that, actually it's like denying their right to joy also. But I think the Catholic Church is obsessed with a bad side of sexuality, which is sexual exploitation. And those are two very different things.
For RH critic Archbishop Oscar Cruz, the law compromises the sacredness of the human body.
Frankly, it is the dignity of the human body and also the sacredness of human sexuality. I'm afraid that with this legislation, we have becoming more and more less appreciative of our persons as man and woman, and therefore, in a way too, we become less impressed by the fact that human sexuality is the source of life.
Cruz also says RH law advocates are too fixated about their rights without understanding their obligations.
What I wanted to say was, with the RH law, whatever happens to it before the Supreme Court, all of a sudden, sex became dangerous. The RH law it separates the sarap from the hirap.
When asked if there's a middle ground between the law's advocates and critics, Melgar says the law is it.
And the RH law has been a product of many suggestions by Catholics. President Noy himself suggested 6 or 8 amendments, including one that natural family planning should be part of the spectrum of services, that it should be funded, that sexuality education should be taught at grade 6, not grade 5, that the provision that said there should be a promotion of the norm of 2 children, that was deleted. So it's a product of compromise.
Bishop, do you agree that the law is the middle ground?
It has been toned down, no? Toned down really a lot.
The U.S. Navy's Chief of Operations, Admiral Jonathan Greenert, is in the Philippines. He assures the Philippines of American support against China's aggression in the South China Sea. Carmela Fonbuena reports.
U.S. Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Jonathan Greenert is the latest in a growing list of U.S. officials to sit down with Filipino counterparts. He says, expect stronger U.S. message against China's aggression.
The preponderance and the collection of activity by China has caused us to want to be more clear on where we stand on this. You know, the ADIS, the fishing ground, if at best are confusing and maybe at worst are conflicting the international norms.
The Philippines has one of the weakest militaries in Asia, but it is one of the most vocal in challenging China's aggressiveness, especially inside the country's exclusive economic zone. The Philippines is now asking for increased presence of U.S. troops here, a request that coincides with the U.S. pivot to Asia.
What does it mean to the Philippines? Well, we'll be available to operate, to work together, to be able that we're comfortable with our partnership and going in the direction that we want to.
If push comes to shove, Greenert vows the U.S. will be there to help.
But of course we would help you. Now, I don't know what that help would be specifically. I mean, we have an obligation because we have a treaty, right?
Greenert reiterates dialogue is the way to resolve the tension.
Move the dialogue less in a direction of, gee whiz, this is just surely going to end up in confrontation and combat to, well, not, it doesn't have to be that way if we can use the process that we all kind of put in place at one time. So we should exhaust that.
In April, the different navies will gather in China for the Western Pacific Naval Symposium. The meeting seeks to draw up common protocols that will guide countries in encounters at sea.
So I don't know if I'm optimistic as much as I'm saying we need to, I hope you could say I'm deliberate on this, maybe focus that if we can't do it then, just what the heck is it that we need to close this off? Every other Navy and nation, and that's not bad when you talk about, right, everybody's got different angles on this.
Yes, sir.
Seems to agree, except for one.
President Aquino says the Philippines and the U.S. are close to finalizing a military-to-military agreement that will allow the increased presence of U.S. troops here. The next round of negotiations happens in March. All eyes are on the panels if they can finish the deal in time for Obama's visit. Carmela Fonbuena, Rappler, Manila.
U.S. President Barack Obama is scheduled to visit the Philippines in April, his final stop in a 4-country Asian tour. This takes the place of a canceled visit last October. Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 3, a deadly ice storm leaves people stranded and cuts power to thousands of homes in the United States. The National Weather Service warns a mammoth dome of Arctic air would settle over the eastern United States, creating a paralyzing ice storm. In the United Kingdom, flood-hit Britain suffers a fresh battering from storms and high winds that cut power to nearly 150,000 homes and threw transport services into chaos. At number 8, women who turn 40 are encouraged to get annual mammography screenings. But do they help reduce breast cancer at all? A study in the British Medical Journal says mammogram screenings have, quote, absolutely no benefit in terms of reduction of cancer deaths. The Los Angeles Times says the study isn't expected to change policy, but it will add to the heated debate over the value of mammograms. And at number 9, Belgium faces protests as its parliament prepared to extend a groundbreaking euthanasia law to terminally ill children. While surveys show Belgians support the move, the Catholic Church led a day of fasting and prayer to pressure lawmakers to postpone the vote. Critics say the euthanasia law is unnecessary and that palliative drugs offer an alternative. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter, which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that have affected our readers and our viewers the most in the last 24 hours. These stories, these 10, are the ones that have gotten the most number of votes on their mood meter. If you take a look today, it looks a little bit like a Christmas tree, red and green. We see the same story with both red and green. Interestingly, Senator Miriam Santiago in today's hearing says Tuazon is the perfect state witness. According to Miriam, you see 16% inspired and 62% happy. But this story, the story that's gotten the most number of votes in the last 24 hours, is the live stream and the live blog of Tuazon's testimony at the Senate today. Interestingly, 13% happy, a whopping 60% angry. That red, bringing out the mood of the day. Today, most people are angry. That is Rappler's newscast for today, Thursday, February 13th, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.